Yeah, I mean, look, it would obviously be really great for the Kesse family. They've waited 20 years practically for an answer on this. So if they finally get it, holy crap, that's a big deal for them. But I could see it being a big deal for all of us, right? Because it gives hope to a lot of these unsolved cases. The Jennifer Kesse disappearance is one of the most frustrating, well-known, just infamous unsolved cases in the country. And if that one can get solved, well, we can start looking at all these other ones and feel a little bit more hope.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. I'm Myles Reef. I'm here as always with my buddy Sean Cahill. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. Guys, today we're getting into another comment reaction video for you. Sean, before we get into the comments, any big news that we need to talk about up top?
Viewers will remember from last week, we talked about something big coming, but don't worry, it's still coming. We're just not ready to share it quite yet. So, there is news, but I'm not going to tell you what it is today. Just stay tuned to our Monday videos because we will be announcing something really cool in the next couple weeks. And pay attention to the shorts too. We're going to have like a full on, blitz of an announcement for this. So, without teasing that anymore, I'll also say we're kind of catching up on comment reactions at this point because we replaced a Monday comment react video with an update with Drew Kesse. If you guys have seen it, great. If not, go check it out. We had Drew on the show to talk about some sort of developments on the Jennifer Kesse case. And so we figured that was a little bit more important than doing comment reactions that week because it was all happening in real time. He was gracious enough to come on and tell us all about it, but it also means that we got a little bit behind with reading your guys' thoughts on some of our older videos. So bear with us. We're going to go through kind of everything. We're going to do our Halloween episode, the Drew Kesse update. Liz Barraza, I think, has some comments here. So it's going to be a little bit all over the board. We'll do our best to try to keep the context alive for you as we read through these. But that's all I wanted to say. Other than that, you guys had some really cool thoughts, way more actually than we can get to. We're at the point now, Myles, where we're getting like a lot of comments, more than we could possibly react to. So if we don't read yours, we're sorry. We're just kind of picking, we're sort of curating to make sure that, if 100 people say, hey, thank you, Drew, for coming on, we're just going to pick one that says that, do it and move on, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into it. Rockstar of Redondo, thanks for coming back. Thanks for the comment. Always good to see you. That would be crazy if this was actually solved. Obviously, if this was actually finally solved. Obviously, this is about the Jennifer Kesse disappearance. Yeah, I think we all feel the same way. I mean, it would be amazing, and yes, crazy, unexpected, huge. There's so many ways to describe it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it would obviously be really great for the Kesse family. They've waited 20 years practically for an answer on this. So if they finally get it, holy crap, that's a big deal for them. But I could see it being a big deal for all of us, right? Because it gives hope to a lot of these unsolved cases. The Jennifer Kesse disappearance is one of the most frustrating, well-known, just infamous unsolved cases in the country. And if that one can get solved, well, we can start looking at all these other ones and feel a little bit more hope. Like, you know, it is approaching one of those ones that feels like, are we ever going to really find an answer here? So if we do, it just bodes well. And I think, it might come from an interesting place, like some of the new technology that we know they're trying to apply to this. I mean, what do you think about that, Myles? I know you're an advocate
Well,
for it.
yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we keep harping on, and we touched on it very early on when we first started talking about this case, and we were researching, what the latest developments in it were, and there was stuff out there that AI might be used, and I think having spoken to Drew and getting more details about how the technology might actually work and how it's actually being brought into the case and what the firms that are being spoken to and that they're bringing in private firms to work with law enforcement makes it a lot more real. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate of it. I used to be very against AI and very scared of it. And the usual sort of Skynet, and it's gonna turn into the Terminator and all that and all the science fiction stuff. But the truth is, it's here. It's part of our lives. Our children are going to grow up with it, and I think trying to see how it can be used as a tool to do positive in the world is a good thing. And if this is something that happens, I mean, it could be groundbreaking. And I know we keep saying that, but it's like, think about DNA technology and what that did for law enforcement and how many cases were able to be closed that had been sitting open for so long. And if AI can help with that, it's going to mean answers for a lot of people, a lot of families. So I'm trying to keep very positive about it.
You're right. It would be a paradigm shift, just like DNA was, right? I mean, that once the DNA technology came around, so many cases were able to be revisited and have that applied to it and solved. And like, if AI winds up being the thing that cracks this case open, oh man, just imagine if it can solve the Kesse case, imagine what else it could solve. So we'll see. It may be that it may actually be DNA again in this one. We'll find out hopefully soon.
That's
But
a
yeah,
very good point because as Drew told us, they are putting something through for testing that hasn't been tested. So we know that that's a fact. We heard it directly from Drew. So it could be DNA.
yeah. Either way, Rockstar Redondo. Um, yes, it would be crazy if this finally got solved.
Definitely crazy and great. Crazy in a meaning like a good thing,
Yeah.
right? I think that's
Yes.
what we're all on the same page. Pink Pecky 1116. The excitement and energy is contagious. Hoping with all hope Jennifer and family receive justice soon. P.S. Mr. Myles Reef, you have the coolest name. Pink Pecky, thank you for finally settling the long-standing beef between Sean and I on who has the coolest name. It is now written on our YouTube channel that I have the cooler name. Of course, I'm joking. That is very, very nice of you to say. I can take no credit for it. It's the my first name was picked by my mom, and obviously my surname is my dad's name. So I had no part in it, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, thanks for finally putting to bed the biggest controversy we have on this show. Whose name is cooler? We appreciate it. Sean Army, if you guys disagree, get in the comments and stick up for me, please. But yeah, Miles,
Let's
I mean,
go. Let's go.
yeah, I think I would have to do like what you're doing and add like an X or a Y or one of the cooler letters to my name to pull it off. It's just
Oh,
not going to
the
happen.
Y, the Y in
I
the
think the Y is doing a lot of work there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is cool.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, again, I had nothing to do with it. And yes, I agree, Pink Pecky. The excitement and energy is contagious. Speaking with Drew, you just had a different feeling from him than we usually have. And as Sean said, I think at the tail end of that update when he and I were speaking without Drew, Drew's always great to talk to. He's really charismatic, really, really upbeat guy, despite, what we're talking to him about. But this time around, it was different. It definitely felt different, and it felt like there was some renewed sense of something. And I don't want to use the word hope, but there was something going on with him, and the energy was different. And I think it came through in the video, obviously, because you noted it.
Yeah, no, I felt it too. And actually, there's something I want to say, but it might tie more into this next comment. So let me read this one first, and then we'll do it. So Christopher 74K3E says, Drew, I feel like I'm part of your guys' family. I've been with you guys from the beginning. My son was a 2-month old when I came across the news about Jennifer being missing. I hope you guys find out what happened. I've watched the news online since the beginning, and I lost my sister. She was murdered back in February of 2006. I think you guys will finally find out the truth about what happened in this. It's True Crime Unsolved. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the fantastic work. So there's a lot to unpack there. The first thing I want to say though is that I'm really sorry to hear about your sister and her murder. That's horrible, obviously. And I can see why you bring it up because February 2006 was right around the time Jennifer went missing. So clearly this is a time period in your life where there's just a lot of memories locked in. Um, yeah. What I was going to say is where he kind of mentions at the beginning here, Drew, I feel like I'm part of your guys' family. I think that's just Drew Kesse. I mean, like, this is a guy I love talking to. Like you said, even though our conversations are always around the worst thing that ever happened to him in his life, somehow he's still just like effervescent and really articulate. And the kind of guy I think that everyone who watches this family is drawn to. And maybe that's why so many people care so much because they just feel like people you want to know. They feel like someone you'd want to grab dinner with. I mean, they're just normal, nice, fun. I hate to even use that word, but like they're nice people. So, yeah, it's amazing to see over 20 years how much everyone has really started to care about Jennifer's case. And a lot of that is Jennifer
It's
herself
similar
too.
with Liz, right?
Mhm.
It's similar with the Liz Barraza case where her parents have become advocates for the cause of unsolved cases in general and for murder victims in general and victims of violent crime. And I think that that really comes across with both of these families where people have connected with them in a really positive way, which you don't always see in this kind of stuff.
No, no, you don't. But it's also, I guess a good sign for Drew and his family doing press so much over the decades, even though it's an exhausting experience for them because having to talk about this to begin with is difficult, but then every time they make a new announcement or they come forward and talk about something, it just surfaces more phone calls from people, more people trying to get in touch with them. And then honestly, a lot of the time, false leads, right? Every time the story comes up, people are thinking about it. People start writing weird comments or sending weird emails, and all that has to be sifted through. So, yeah, I mean, I just care so much about them at this point after all of our dealings with them that I can see why they are sort of magnets for everybody's attention.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. AM 74343. I've often wondered how they determined that the person who drove Jennifer's car to that apartment complex was the same person who was walking by the fence. The images of the person exiting the car are basically useless because they're so far away and grainy.
Hmm. You want me to field this one?
Yeah, yeah. You and I have had conversations about this, and you've kind of broken it down in a very articulate way in the past.
Let's see if I can repeat the trick. Okay, so how do
The
we know that the guy or girl, it looks like a guy to me, but let's just say the person
person.
in the images where their face is obscured by the fence post, right? The famous photos, we'll put them up now. How do we know that that's the same person that we see getting out of Jennifer Kessie's car in this other surveillance video? Because it's so grainy and it's so far away. How are they connected? Well, because basically the police canvassed that area, right? They started with the car, found the person getting out on that tape, and saw them walk around this fence, and you can really barely see them. It's like worse footage than UFO footage or Bigfoot footage. It's really, really bad. But the reason they know it's the same person is because when they walk out of frame, they're essentially walking into frame on that next series of photos. It may be, a couple seconds where there's no cameras on them, but basically that person leaves, and a couple seconds later, we see someone else walk into this frame, and there's really nobody else around.
And there was
So,
nowhere else to go,
and there's
right?
nowhere else to go.
But where they were coming from the one angle, they had to end up in the other angle where they then appear, which is the famous
Yes,
shots, which we're going to show of
exactly.
events.
So if that second camera was like, 3 miles across town, yeah, I don't see how we would ever know it was the same person. But because it's basically right next door or some version of that makes sense, that's how we know.
And
So
they're all
that's
time stamped. So every shot has a timestamp. So it's pretty solid that that is the person.
exactly. And frustratingly, even though you can see them much closer, it's still just as difficult to tell who that is as the first video. So
Right.
yeah,
Thank you. You want to take this?
sure. James Irvin 1067. This might be simple minded, but, and we're going into all caps territory here, take the list of the remaining people of interest and at 32:35, I think that's a timestamp, do a reconnaissance surveillance video on each one walking. The one that matches the walk of the unknown video suspect will end up the dude. I think he means being the dude. Just do it. Most cold cases have the perp already under the umbrella of suspicion. Do the process of elimination. I see you. Now, that's a cryptic way to end it. So, yeah, I do think he's right. I think a lot of these cold cases, you do see that it's like they've already interviewed the person in the past when they finally solve it. Someone's already been on their radar and for some reason just wasn't caught or wasn't looked into enough or whatever. But the rest of this is kind of like strange. He's saying we should just film anyone who's a person of interest, like surreptitiously, like follow them to the mall and like watch them walk, compare that walk to what we have on camera here, and then boom, it's solved.
What was the case where the person had a strange gait?
It's one that's coming up for us, Missy Beavers, which we're
Right.
excited to bring you guys
Right. And
very.
that there actually has been some work done similar to what
Yeah.
James Irvin is saying here. I mean, I think there's a bunch of things here. I mean, I don't. you need a warrant to do reconnaissance surveillance video. You can't, law enforcement can't just go out and start filming people unless, they're interacting with them and it's on a body cam and it's out in the open and they know. So, it's the same as like recording you that, it requires a warrant. Like they do that, they do surveillance on people, but first they have to go to a judge and say, we have reasonable suspicion, blah, 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 blah. We want to do surveillance on this person. So that would have to happen in every one of these cases. I mean, the cops can't just go out and do it. You probably know that, James. But, so obviously there's reasons for them not having done this. I don't know that the walk is that distinctive in those shots and because it's like you don't really see the walk because it's these weird
It's still photos.
grainy still photo frames because of the way that these cameras were working when this happened. They
Yeah.
weren't full video footage, right? It was just taking these random photos, which is why we're stuck with this frustrating evidence of this person being behind these uh you know uh pieces of metal,
Yeah.
for lack of a better way of
Fence
describing it.
posts or whatever.
But
Yeah.
yeah, pose. So I don't know that you could match the walk. I don't know that there is a walk.
Well, and not to, not to poke holes in it, but just for the sake of conversation, because it's an interesting point that
Yeah,
James brings up. It's also been 20 years, right? I mean, this person could have been, in a car accident and their gait has changed. They could just be older. They could have health problems. Uh, Even if we had the walk clearly on video, the walk could be different now. So it is a
yeah,
tough, it's a tough one. But no,
yeah,
it's an interesting point. And one thing I love about these kind of comments is I love seeing people think outside the box. I mean, this is such an interesting thing to bring up. And I don't, I'm not like devil's advocating it because I think it's a bad idea. It's just an interesting thing to kind of think about. So thanks for
absolutely.
that, James.
Absolutely. Ask. Oh, do you want to take this one? 'Cause I did the last one, right?
Sure. I
Oh no,
mean,
no, you did that. You did the yelling.
I did it in
I'll
character.
cut this out. Okay. What do we got next? Ask Alex, 1999. Who are the six people?
I think he's thinking about when Drew was telling us that there's probably like they've narrowed it down to like 5 or 6 people that they think it could be in there.
Right, right. And is that Alex? I'm curious if you're saying who are the six people that Drew would like to have arrested that he mentions that he can think of, or if you're talking specifically, which I imagine is what you mean, is that who are the people that the cops are looking at right now? That's the multi-million dollar question.
Yeah, wouldn't we all like to know?
Yeah, I think if Drew knew the names, which he probably has some idea, he's not going to tell us because then if those folks are watching what's going on in the world, they'd be hip to what's happening. So, I'm sure a lot of these people know that they're under scrutiny. They're being called in for interviews. The cops have already spoken to them at some point. So
Yeah.
we will just have to wait and see.
I mean, look, there's a time where you want the suspect to know that you're onto them, and there's a time when you don't. And my feeling after talking to Drew is that they're trying to not spook people, not give anyone a reason to leave the country, or God forbid, like, do something to themselves. I think they just want to let this play out quietly until they're sure of who did it. And at that point, they'll figure it out. So yeah, you got it. Like Myles said, that's $1 million question, my friend. Who are these people and which one of them is it going to be when we finally get to the
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah, but that right now, I think ask Alex, that is the question right now. That's exactly it. Because we know that there's new stuff being tested for DNA. We know that the AI is being brought in. We know that they're looking at certain people and that they're honing in. So the big question is, who are those people? And
Yeah.
we will wait and see, and we'll find out who was right about this case because so many of you guys have been following it for so long, and I've had such so much research and work has gone into this all over of people who care and trying to figure out who could have done whatever happened to this young woman. And hopefully finding out who did it will also answer the question of what actually happened. But I'm very, very, very eager to know.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the biggest news that we have right now is the fact that it's not which one of these 7 billion people on Earth did it. We're down to six-ish. So
Right.
Drew almost was kind of downplaying that he was on to even discuss news, but we kind of weren't having it from him. We're like, Drew, it's a big deal. I mean, like that's a huge development, right? If we've got it
Right.
down to a handful of possible folks, um, that allows law enforcement to really focus in and do their job.
Yeah. Those are damn good odds, I would say, compared to, what it's been.
Yeah.
And knowing the person that's in charge and having had conversations with this person, and how competent they seem and just motivated to get this done. Um, I'm very, very, very optimistic.
Yeah, yeah. And look, like I think I even said this to Drew when we talked to him, but I'll say it again at the risk of repeating myself. Jennifer Kesse's case is not one that a lot of people would take the Vegas odds on being like, oh, they're going to solve that. It's a 20-year-old, extremely mysterious missing persons case. But all of that has changed in the past couple months because of this news. I mean, like now I have moved that one over to the I do think this will get solved in the Sean case tabulator. I am feeling bullish on it.
Uh, yeah, it's you. Move on. Should we move on?
Yeah, so this will be about Liz Barraza. T. Smith 3286 says, just my opinion about a few things. I've always thought there was a possibility that the car was vinyl wrapped, or at the very least, those 4x4 stickers on it were fake. There actually was not that many of that model in color, that model being a Nissan Frontier Pro 4X that he's talking about. The police would have eventually found who drove that particular truck. I think the reason that he turned around was because he was using a police scanner and knew that he was headed toward the first officers coming to the scene. The neighbor called the police almost immediately after the shooting. Liz was the event coordinator for the 501st Legion, and I think someone felt slighted or was being ignored at one or more of the events. I would imagine that the killer had a place to go not very far away to change and get the truck stripped of all the decals. This may sound a bit far fetched, but this was an extremely well thought out plan. Not much was left to chance. Lastly, look for someone who may have a decal making company or hobby that has the equipment who makes decals. They may also have a Facebook or social media account that displays their work. Oh, let me toss it to you because I did a big
There's
read
a
there.
there's a lot there. I mean, T. Smith, thank you for the comment. I mean, so there's a lot to unpack here. It's a very interesting theory about the vinyl stickers. I do know that Michael and his team, Michael Ritchie, that is, didn't only look into that trim. They were looking at multiple trims of Nissan Frontiers. Now, did they focus on the trim that had those stickers on them? Yes, but that's not all they looked at. But it is a very, very interesting theory that you're putting out there because that would throw people off, right? And I really liked what you said about look for the decal company or hobby equipment. It's interesting. The stuff that you're saying about the 501st, I mean, obviously, we've talked about that a bit. I think we cleared up the idea that the event coordinator was some sort of sought after job or position in the group. We did, you know, speak to some people who were in the know on that, and they said that it absolutely wasn't, and it wasn't something that anyone would be jealous of. It was sort of a thankless position, and it wasn't that there wasn't like high visibility on it. Having said that, I've always felt that Liz was someone with a very exuberant, positive personality, and that she wasn't necessarily like a Star Wars person. And she joined this group because Sergio was into it. And, who knows how people feel about things. And I've always felt that that could have played into someone, you know, having something against her. So I don't, I don't, I don't disagree with any of that stuff that you're saying. And I think what you're putting out as far as the truck goes and if someone could have had some business where they made the decals and stuff. I mean, yeah, it does it's you say this may sound far-fetched, but it is an extremely well thought. I mean, it's sat for so long and it hasn't been able to get solved. So, you have to start thinking far-fetched. You have to start thinking outside the box. Like you have to start looking at people or possible people that you wouldn't necessarily think of when there's no one obvious, right? And so I don't think it's crazy to look at this stuff in any way.
No, and I really appreciated this comment because it almost felt like an Agatha Christie reveal or something. It's like, oh, it was just stickers the whole time. Everyone's been
Mhm.
looking for the wrong truck. And I like that. The one thing I remember, though, as you were talking about it, Miles, is that Michael Ritchie did tell us that one of the troubles with the way cars are registered in Texas, and he learned it from this case, is that they'll tell you everyone who has a Nissan Frontier, but the system doesn't have the trim level in it, right? So, like
Right.
when he's going
So they
through,
were looking at all of that because I knew he looked at,
yeah.
he wasn't just looking at that trim.
So
And
as
there
much
was a
as
reason for that, that he couldn't focus on it.
Yeah, exactly. As much as I think Michael Ritchie would have loved to have to be
Right.
able to
Right.
like on an internet search, like filter by Nissan Pro 4X trim, he wasn't able to. He had to look at all of them. So like that's, and
Right.
I think it was a really like a tedious task for him. But yeah, otherwise, I love this theory. It's definitely like one of these great viewers who's totally thinking it's in outside the box and looking at this in a different way. I mean, what a dastardly thing that would be if someone planned it down to the level of that detail, right? I'm going to make this truck look like it's a different trim level because I know the cops are going to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
very Grand Theft Auto, it's
it
like it's
is.
going to the paint shop and coming out with a different thing and then driving by the cops, and your stars are gone, right?
Well, yeah, and look,
Uh,
they wore a disguise, right? So why not
no,
disguise the truck?
it's
It's like,
totally
yeah,
it's not. I'm not saying that like making fun of it like it doesn't happen in real life. I'm saying that like yeah, it feels like something from a video game or a movie, but
yeah,
so does this whole thing. I mean, Liz's entire case feels otherworldly and strange.
it
So
does. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think any of that is out of place. I mean, like what was the Pro 4X? What did you get with that trim besides the decals?
I don't know. But so,
Did it actually change the drivetrain or like anything? Like
and yeah, this is if you were watching Pawn Stars right now, this is where they'd like call their friend who
call in
works
an
at the
expert.
Nissan
Yeah.
dealership. Yeah, we're going to call in the Nissan
Did you get
expert.
the fog lights? Like what did you get with that? I don't know.
It's probably some sort of like off-road package or something. I mean, someone's going to
Right.
tell us in the comments. Guys, let us know. What's the
Let
difference?
us know. Yeah, because I'm not I know a good amount about American cars and I know a bit about German cars and I know a little bit about Toyota 4Runners, but I don't really know much about Nissans. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know what you get with that.
Well, I guess the last thing I'll say before we go to the next comment is that, like, so obviously I said Michael Ritchie had to sort through all of these, but I don't think that this person would have known that. So it is still totally plausible that they did what you're suggesting. How would they know that the police's system for looking at registered cars wouldn't mention a trim level unless they were a police officer? But now we're talking like really crazy theories.
It's a
So
good
yeah,
point, though. It's a good
it's
point. I mean, it's a thing within a thing,
it's a
and
thing within a thing.
it's unless they did know that. I mean, again, Michael Ritchie looked at every Nissan Frontier, right? Every trim level, as Sean just pointed out, because they couldn't discern between them. So they couldn't find a connection, of these thousands and thousands of people who had these cars registered. So I think once this case is broken, I would imagine that there is gonna, something's gonna come up that like, well, we did look at that person that, and that they ended up having a tenuous connection to someone and they borrowed the car or something. Like there has to be because this car did exist. And
Yeah.
as many of our viewers have pointed out, unless they took it to Mexico, I think it was a Palacio Texas Beauty who said, they probably drove it across the border and got it chopped or something, which, I guess it's possible. I mean, they were close to the border, but it's also possible that the cops, took a look, couldn't find a connection. There were so many people, there's thousands and thousands of owners to sort through. People who were leasing, people who own the things, people who rented them. So, yeah, I think there's so much about Liz's case that when the truth does come out, it's gonna blow people away. And if there is a connection to someone that the cops already looked at with the truck, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, they're going to figure that out. In fact, I think we talked about it in last week's comment video. Like my personal opinion of this case at this point, where after doing all these interviews and knowing as much as I do about it, I don't think that the truck is going to be what solves it. I don't think that us chasing this truck is going to be the key here. I think the truck is going to be something we make the connection afterwards. Once this person's caught through some other avenue, we're going to be like, that's where they got the truck. Now I see it. They borrowed it from somebody. They drove it in from out of state. They put the decals on it. Whatever it winds up being. But I feel like looking for the truck to solve the crime doesn't seem like it's yielded much in 6 years, and I'd be surprised if that changed. I think if this gets solved, and it will, it'll come from somewhere else, and then the truck will make sense in like hindsight, right?
Yeah, agreed. I don't think that's the thing that's going to break this. I think that Michael Ritchie's onto other things.
Yeah, they
Um,
tried. I mean, it's certainly would have been an
right,
obvious avenue, but it didn't lead where they wanted it to.
right,
So
and it's not for lack of trying.
no,
Behind the spotlight, 7983. I'm hesitant to even bring this up, but when it comes to an actual perpetrator being arrested and charged, excuse me, one of the most tragic and rawly brutal things that all of Liz's friends and family may have to deal with is a gut punch in their overall trust department. Can you imagine finding out it's one of your closest mutual friends with whom you've spent tons of time since the murder? Maybe you've traveled together. Maybe they babysat your kids. Freaking chilling doesn't even begin to cover it. You'd never trust anyone again in your lifetime. I mean, what a great point. And I think that comes through in Marcy and Josh's interview and what they've gone through. And you can see, and they talk about it, just how their trust has been shattered and how they look at life differently and how they look at their peer group differently because nobody's been arrested. So, they're still looking over their shoulder within the 501st, and they're still trying to figure out what the heck happened to their friend, right? So, yeah, huge, 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 very, very, very good point that Behind the Spotlight makes. Totally agree.
yeah, and I would imagine as I'm kind of thinking this through, and I'm not going to speak for our guests, but I think this is a reasonable sort of speculation for me to make, but it is my own opinion. I would bet all of them, from Liz's parents to Marcy and Josh, and even to Detective Ritchie, probably feel like they've met the killer, at some point. Or that it's very likely, right, that it was somebody that knew Liz really well and was in her circle, and these are her closest friends, her family, and the guy who's been investigating her death for 6 years. So at some point, you have to imagine these people probably go to bed at night and just wonder, like, have I shaken this person's hand? Like, have I eaten with them? Basically everything this commenter is saying. Of course, we don't know. And again, I don't want to speak for them, but I would be feeling that way in any of their positions. If I'm Sergeant Ritchie, I'm wondering, have I interviewed this person? Have I talked to them
Right.
on the phone yet?
Right.
Is it one of these cars I've looked at and for some reason just couldn't make the connection and dismissed it? I'm sure he thinks that. How could
Yeah.
you not, working a case this long?
Yeah. I mean, look, they knew possibly that she was going to be out at that time of day, setting up the garage sale. They certainly knew where she lived. There was information that it seems like, it was targeted, it was specific. So all of those things make sense.
Yeah, yeah. And even some of the circumstantial evidence kind of suggests they may have even known where her Nest camera was, what she was going to be doing that
Right.
morning, when her husband was going to work. So it's like if they knew her that well, the chances are they probably knew Marcy and Josh, maybe had met her parents. I mean, her parents, you know, knew a lot of the people in her life. So yeah, oh man, I don't know. I have no idea. None of these people have told me anything about if they think that. I'm totally just going off of my own conjecture here, but yeah, it's hard. I mean, Marcy and Josh did say it actually in their interview. Like they go to the 501st and look around sometimes and just wonder, like, all these people are my friends. I like all these people, but could it have been one of them? I don't know. So yeah, imagine what that does to your trust and your feeling of like, how you read people. It's got to just be insane and devastating,
It's chilling. It's chilling just when you're saying it. It really is.
or freaking chilling, as Behind the Spotlight 7983 put it.
Yes. Yes. Well, listen, guys, that's all the comments that we've got time for right now. As Sean said, you guys are leaving so many, and a lot of them are along the same line. So we're trying to cover the topics at least that everyone's kind of bringing to our attention, and making sure that we give everybody a little shout out. So we appreciate it. Please keep the conversation up. If you haven't done it already, please like this video, subscribe. Our subscriber base is growing, but there's still so many of you guys who are watching our videos and not subscribing. And I understand that's normal, but we'd love it if you would subscribe. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up. We've already got months into 2026 program. Working behind the scenes right now. We're booking other stories. We're interviewing people. We've got big stuff coming up, big announcements coming for the channel. So you subscribe, stay in touch, hit that notifications bell, so you know when we're putting up the next video.
Yeah, it's really fun to see a lot of you guys come back week after week with new thoughts, and the list of people who do that seems to be growing. So thanks for the engagement. We're going to keep doing this as long as people keep wanting to see it, which seems like it's going to be a long ride. So thanks for watching this, guys. We'll see you on Friday and then again the next week.
Thanks, everybody.